I'm Chuyao from China.
And I'm Ishita from India.
Now, we are not going to talk about our country's booming population. Well, it is a really big problem, but we have more things in common. Do you know there's 600,000 tons of recyclable waste generated here in New York City every year that is sent to India and China? So this triggered our interest in New York City's recycling system. At first, we were fascinated about like huge pickup trucks and these fancy sorting machines, but then we found we also have these people, and these people. We are very familiar with them in our countries, but we wondered what is their role in New York City?
We learned that in 1982, before we had curbside recycling in the city, New York State introduced a bottle bill. According to this bill, when we buy a can of Coke or any other beverage, we pay an extra 5-cent deposit for the container that we're eligible to redeem back when we return the container. The bill is a measure to incentivize us consumers to reduce litter and to make beverage companies accountable for their waste. But how many of us really go and return our cans and bottles? And so the bill has turned unintentionally into a new means of livelihood for thousands of unemployed and retired people in the city, creating a new subculture called canning. And the people who redeem these cans and bottles are called canners. Maria is one such canner. We met Maria at Chuyao Can, a nonprofit redemption center in Brooklyn. She came to the United States 30 years ago with a dream. She currently works part-time at a church. Maria has 2 sons, Matthias and David. David is in 5th grade and hopes to go to college one day. Working part-time on minimum wage does not provide Maria, a single mother, the resources that she needs to raise her 2 sons. And so Maria started collecting cans and bottles. Maria told us that canning is not always a stable source of income.
So, to understand canners better, we started by asking if we can help them collect, sort, count, and redeem cans. We found that canning is even harder than we imagined. It requires rummaging through the trash and all sorts of unpleasant things. So we were forced to strip down our pride, be vulnerable and immune to everything people think or said about us. We were intimidated. So we thought canning is the problem. If we can help them get out of this, get better opportunities to earn money, then this problem is solved.
We spent a lot of time thinking this way, thinking about how we could provide access to better opportunities and financial stability to this community. But after talking to many, many canners, we realized that in fact, canning was better access to opportunities for these people because it helped them get the extra money they needed over their social security to pay for rent or to pay for children's education or to save for their grandchildren. Like David Calix says, when you're pushed to the edge, collecting cans might be the only thing you can do. While it's not the best job in the world, it has gotten Maria by for the last 10 years. And this learning was a pivotal moment in our research. Canning is not the problem. Canning is the solution for Maria and for 7,000 canners in the city. The focus of our project completely shifted. If canning is providing livelihood to so many people, then how do we recognize this job? While curbside recycling only takes care of the recyclables in recycling bags, canners divert a huge amount of recyclables from the trash that would otherwise end up going to the landfill. While this is not measured, this really helps the city reach greater recycling goals.
However, canners are not valued by any of the key stakeholders. The city blamed the canners for collecting recyclables from the curbside recycling bags because it means less income for the city. but they ignore the contributions canners make. And the general public are indifferent to canners. They don't think canning is a serious job for someone. Also, canners themselves has been marginalized and stigmatized for such a long time that they don't see their own value. We found there's two major gaps between these two sides, and because of which canners are not valued. Firstly, canners are not a recognized group, so there's no study on canners in New York City. Even though we see canners diverting recyclables from the landfill, their contributions are not being quantified. Also, canners has the potential to create jobs, reduce poverty, and even save the city's money. However, there's no research to prove these social and economic advantages. Secondly, there's no communication to share a new perspective, so people continue to perpetuate the misconceptions. Public attitudes and public policies are often based on these misconceptions, like canning is disorganized, so there's no economic or environmental impact.
In order to fill these gaps so that canners are seen as contributing members of society, we built Canversation, an interactive walking tour with a mission to make New Yorkers see their canners. We created a walking tour because it's fun, and it's a great way for people to get to see the number of cans and bottles that are being diverted by canners every day. We don't believe that any community is voiceless, so the walking tour is led by canners themselves and is a platform for them to share their stories. Our target audience is students and professionals in sustainability, policy, and design who value recycling, do research projects, and have the ability to influence policy in the long run. Currently, the ways to get information about canners include documentaries and articles. However, these are not enough to inspire research or shift misconception. And so, the walking tour makes sure that people get clarity on the current recycling system and the role of canners, shift biases through honest conversations with the canners, and give people a chance to experience canning firsthand. The response we got from the four tours that we conducted exceeded our expectations. Yes, the tour was featured in Untapped Cities, a sightseeing tour agency in New York City. Our participants are already working on projects such as unionizing canners, and a shout out to Christina in the audience, who's making a short film about the canning ecosystem after being inspired by the tour. People confess that the tour made them see canners differently. I used to think all canners are homeless or drug addicts. This has changed everything I knew. The rich interactions and the demand that the tour generated shows that it has potential to inspire research, change the way New Yorkers see their canners, as well as the potential to be financially sustainable.
On the Earth Day gathering in Shuriken, we shared this idea to more canners in the community. And like Anna, the founder of Shuriken, there? Yes, she said you created an alternative for people to open their minds to other realities. There's a lot of interest to continue this tour, and we are also in the conversation with Shuriken to take this forward. Imagine if you can join a walk led by a canner you often see in your own neighborhood. We want to scale this to more areas and more languages. We believe that if we can shift the public attitude and show the contribution canners make, we'll have a stronger argument to influence the public policies and the government perspective. And with that, ultimately, we can advocate to integrate canners in our waste management system as local recyclers. So instead of just looking at canners as people who just collect cans and bottles, we should look at their potential and look at what they are capable of doing. They see the value in waste, and they are hardworking. They are very adaptable. So what if there's more incentives on other recyclables? Imagine how many coffee cups we can divert from the landfill. And also imagine how many people in difficulties can benefit from this. And all these start with Canversation. Thank you.